are 2 rounds in and the Broncos are flying, but are they back as a force? Hello and welcome to Fox Sports Lab NRL. I'm Eloise Sohier and with me are NRL greats Josh Morris and Chris Lawrence, as well as stats guru Tim Williams. First, let's take a look at the Broncos. Tim, you were super impressed with the Broncos. Are they a genuine threat in 2023?
They absolutely are, yeah. And I think off the back of what we saw from Reece Walsh in his first game back at Red Hill, wasn't it an absolute cracker? And I think the stat sheet sort of said it all. He had a try assist, 2 try contributions, 4 line break assists. They are unbelievable numbers for his first game back in a new side. So he was the difference in that game and can be in their charge to being a top 4 side.
Josh, they've beaten Penrith Panthers, who were the premiers last year. They've beaten North Queensland Cowboys, who finished in the top 4. Does that make them a genuine threat? And should the rest of the competition be on notice?
Yeah, look, I think it's the manner in which they beat those sides as well. They went down to Penrith and their goal line defence was outstanding to get the win. And then they were in a dogfight with the Cowboys and then ran away with it late. So they've won 2 different ways. They always seem to start the season well. It's going to be the back end of the season which tells if they're a genuine threat or not.
Absolutely, they have to be consistent. Obviously, Chris, under Kevy Walters, we've seen him in a number of seasons gone by, but what do you think's changed within that setup that's making them be up there at the end, at this point of the season up there?
Yeah, look, I think as Josh said, they have started the year well in the last couple of years, so it's going to be how they, go through the season and finish the year. I think the fact that they have had a young team for a number of years and that experience of going through and having a full season and being consistent and knowing when to peak, I think is going to be the key. And I think Reece Walsh, I think he might be the difference. You need an X factor coming into September, and I think he might be the man to take them into the finals and maybe give them a crack at a premiership.
Absolutely. All eyes are certainly on Reece Walsh. Well, it's time to shine a spotlight on some lowlights of round 2, starting with the Melbourne Storm. This really isn't the Melbourne Storm that we've seen gone by. What's sort of not working for them at the moment under Craig Bellamy?
Well, injuries do play a part, but on the weekend, he gave them a bake and said that their effort areas weren't up to scratch. And that's what Melbourne have prided themselves on and built themselves on. So to get a spray round 2 means you must be doing something wrong. I think the loss of Nelson is going to hurt them as well. His size and his skill for such a big man, he plays an important role in that team. But I think having Justin Oldham and Tarek Sims coming into that team will help them a lot.
Do you think this is a time where Melbourne Storm can kind of regroup, or is this potentially the demise of Melbourne Storm as we have seen them when the success of last seasons?
Yeah, look, I'm hesitant to say the demise of them because how many times have we said that in the past 2 decades when we've been proven wrong time and time again by Craig Bellamy? I just think in past years, when they have their injury crisis, Melbourne, they find a way out of it and they find solutions. This year, I'm just not convinced they do. I don't think they were great in round 1 in the dogfight against Parramatta, blown off the park by the Doggies, who were understrength themselves in round 2. Josh mentioned that Nelson Solomona is also out now. They do welcome back at this stage, if they're cleared, Tui Kamikamica, which is key, and Tarek Sims. I just think even with Harry Grant being such a focal point of their attack, is he going to get the quick play, the ball speeds to work off the back of? I have a lot of question marks.
Obviously, they went down to the Melbourne Storm last week, and the Bulldogs have beat them. The Bulldogs will be up for the game this weekend when they face the West Tigers. Let's shine a light on the West Tigers at the moment, Chris. Are they going down the wooden spooners once again?
Look, I think it was very disappointing, particularly the last 2 weeks. Being at Leichhardt Sunday afternoon, having a packed crowd, and I think the manner in which they lost. The amount of errors they made, I think 16 and 17 errors respectively, but it was a lot of unforced errors. They've been very vocal about moving the ball around, and early in the season you can almost cop if you're going to move the ball around and force some errors, but some really simple errors in these 2 games. And I think on the weekend against an understrength Newcastle side, particularly when they were a man down, I think at times they definitely panicked and weren't patient. So I think they have to really turn that around quick. I think that comes from confidence, and there's a lot of players in that team who haven't won for a long time, so it doesn't automatically change things. You obviously got some winners there in Api Coruscant, but it's going to take time for those guys to really stand up and stamp themselves and bring that confidence week in, week out. So they definitely have to turn it around, but I think it starts with holding the ball.
I think John Bateman will be a big boost as well to that side. He comes in, he's a genuine winner, and he'll drive those standards as well. I think we'll see an improve with him in the side.
What do you think the message would be from Tim Sheens to sort of rally around and get the job done out there at Belmore? It's a tough task.
Well, they've just got to stop being their own worst enemy. Like Chris said, you got to hold on to the ball. If you don't respect the football, it's a simple game. If you don't respect it, you're going to lose. The teams are too good these days that if you give them enough possession, they'll make you pay for it. And the Bulldogs certainly will do that at Belmore.
Tim, do you see some hope in the West Tigers? Can they turn their season around? And the likes of Isaiah Papali'i and Api Coruscant step up and really show how good they can be?
Yeah, and look, I think they've got the squad to do it. We know they've got the calibre of play there, and I can rattle off a bunch of old school, like just cliches in rugby league, but they need to do things like roll up the sleeves. And I thought on the weekend what was most evident, they didn't earn the right to play attacking football. They expected it to happen. They were playing laterally, and it just didn't work for them. They need to roll up the sleeves, play through the middle, and earn that right, and just not hope that things are going to happen off the back of an injury-riddled opposition.
Yeah, I think, and that's a key point. I think, they have made a point they're going to move the ball around, but it's the earning the right and the time when to do that. And I think in the trial they did that against the Raiders. At points in time against the Titans they did that, but they were just too lateral. They didn't earn the right, and they just started forcing things, against the Knights. So I think they need to pick their moments, and if they don't learn to do that, it might be a long game for them again on Sunday.
It's got to be the full 80 minutes. There's nowhere to hide in the NRL, and the pressure will continue to mount with every loss. They are genuine superstars of the NRL, players who can be the difference between winning and losing. Let's take a look at three of the best. Tim Williams and Josh Morris are alongside me. I might start with you, Tim. What do you love about Joseph Suaalii? He's been in the media a little bit lately up against Tedesco. It's a little bit too premature at the moment, though.
It's definitely too premature. I mean, talk of the competition between himself and James Tedesco for a fullback spot, I think maybe that's a little bit of a beat-up. I think Suaalii knows his place in that team. Teddy's the number one bloke there. 5 Jack Gibson medals in a row at the Roosters for Player of the Year, so it's his spot.
What do you love about Suaalii and what he has brought to the NRL in his game? Obviously, he's going to get better and better each week.
Yeah, that's it. He's such a big body and has that presence already at such a young age, and he's only going to get better. I think playing in different positions now, he went from the wing to the centres now, he's going to develop a whole different skill set as well. So that's only going to benefit him and the Roosters.
A future fullback position potentially for him, but one person who is there at the moment is, of course, Reece Walsh. What do you love about Walsh? Everything he touched on the weekend turned to gold.
What an unbelievable return for the Broncos to his old club. He had on the weekend a try assist, 4 line break assists, a couple of try contributions. It was as good as it got, and he just looked phenomenal out there. So what a start for his time at the Broncos again.
And just lastly, Felice Kaufusi, hasn't he been impressive for the Dolphins? His defence is just amazing.
Yeah, that's it. I think defensively he's one of the best back rowers in the comp, but his ability to change the momentum of the game with those hits that he's delivering has really helped the Dolphins get on a roll. He did it against the Roosters and then backed it up with the Canberra Raiders. And not only that, he's a handy attacker as well.
Yeah, that's right. They might take up a fair bit of the salary cap, but these match winners are worth every cent. The Eels are 0-2, headed to the Northern Beaches to face old enemy Manly. Chris Lawrence, should Eels fans have their finger hovering over the panic button yet?
No, I don't think so. I think while it's not ideal to start the season with 2 losses, they've played some pretty good opposition and they've played some good football. They are down on some troops, some players that have left the club. I think this week's going to be a great opportunity for them to bounce back, and we've seen in previous seasons teams that have started the season slow but come towards September with momentum have gone deep into the final. So I don't think we can hit the panic button yet.
Absolutely. Well, obviously they've shown some confidence as well in their coach and Brad Arthur. They've re-signed him. Does that give some sort of confidence to the playing group?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a positive sign. I mean, for them to do that, he must have the support of the players. And I think we'll see, a reaction from them to really show the coach, what he means to them. And I think it's stability for the club. I mean, that's what you want to have. You want to have the support of your players and stability for the club. So I think it is a positive thing.
And for the Manly, are they better off for having that bye round coming into this game?
I think they're worse off, actually. I think, when you want to have the bye, it's when you really want to rest your players and have time away from football. But at the start of the year, it's all about getting those game minutes in, getting those combinations. They do have a few new players, so I think it's going to be detrimental to them.
Absolutely. Is it Manly or is it the Eels?
I'm going with the Eels. I know it's tough at Brookvale, but I'm going with them.
Well, there you have it. What a game to kick off round 3.
League is life. It's exhilaration, anticipation, highs and highlights. League is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for League fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
Prepare the sin bin. The Roosters are taking on the Rabbitohs, and the last time these two sides met, Josh, it was all out mayhem. Can we expect the same this Friday night?
Roosters South games, you can expect fireworks every time they play. Last year, we can all remember there were lots of sin bins in that game. Rumour has it that South have been training with 12 men during the week as well, so it could make for an interesting game.
It always is a great rivalry, but the Roosters are without a number of key players due to injury, and they're also, they welcome back Jared Rea-Hargreaves, but is it tough coming up against a Rabbitoh side that are going to be up for it?
Yeah, I think he's a massive inclusion for their side. He brings that starch to the middle, which they've been missing. They're certainly going to need him with the likes of Damien Cook and Cam Murray around that middle of the ruck.
What about the fact that Latrell Mitchell comes up against his old side? There has been, alleged racial abuse last weekend. He's going to be out there to prove a point.
He certainly will be, and he always gets up for these games against the Roosters. So he will have circled this one in at the start of the year that he wants to have a big game for, and I've got no doubt that he'll stand up.
So where's this game won and lost, and who's your tip?
Yeah, as I spoke about, I think it's one in the middle. I think whoever controls the ruck the best will win the game. I think the likes of Damien Cook scheming around the ruck, as well as Cam Murray there, and Cody and Latrell hanging around, I think they're very dangerous, and if the Roosters don't do a good job on them, I think they can run away with it.
Well, there you have it. Make sure Friday night diary is clear, because you won't want to miss this one. Welcome back to Fox Sports Lab NRL. It is time for our experts to make some big calls on some big games this weekend. And to Friday night and the Dolphins. Can Wayne Bennett's boys make it 3 in a row when they travel outside of Queensland for the very first time to take on Newcastle at McDonald Jones Stadium? Josh, can they get the job done south of the border?
Yeah, I think they can start the season 3-0, and I think they're the NRL's second favourite team for everyone at the moment. I think with the Knights, with their losses to key personnel, particularly Safidi, Ponga and Brayley, around that spine they lose quite a bit, and they lose one of their enforcers. I think they're going to struggle, and I think that the style that the Dolphins play, they will wear them down and then come away with it late in the game.
Absolutely. What would be the message from Wayne Bennett in the lead up to this one? To go 3-3, no one would have saw that coming.
Yeah, I think to stick to the game plan, they've been very composed. Down 12-0 on the weekend. I think that's the reason why he's got a really senior forward pack. They're going to be in the game at the back end of the game. They're not beating themselves, and I've been really impressed with their young halfbacks. They've played simple and picked their moments, and it's been a winning move at the back end of both games.
Absolutely. The Dolphins there, Craig Bellamy will be demanding a massive shift in attitude and commitment when the Storm takes on the Titans on the Gold Coast. Craig Bellamy, he didn't mince his words when he came out last week after that loss to the Bulldogs, Tim. What are you expecting from the Storm this weekend?
Yeah, you'd hate to have been on the end of that spray, wouldn't you, at half-time that we all saw on TV. So, look, I think it's the Melbourne Storm. They have to bounce back, don't they? I think we'd all be pretty surprised if they didn't. I just think I'm really intrigued to see how they go without Nelson Asofa-Solomona, because they welcome back some key personnel there. Justin Olam's back, Xavier Coates, Tui Kamikamica, Tarek Sims plays his first game for the club. But how much is Nelson worth to that pack? Because now that they've lost Brandon Smith, and obviously to the Roosters, Nass has gone as well. I'm worried about ruck speed and what Harry Grant can do off the back of that. So I think they might be a little bit light on. We'll find out the value of Nass to that team pretty soon. What
about the Titans? How will they prepare for this one coming up against the Storm? They're going to be out to prove a point, no doubt.
Yeah, they will be. I think the Titans played 2 halves on the weekend against the Dragons. They looked really good in that first half, and then the second half fell away and the Dragons ran away with it. So they need to address that second half start and make sure that they're playing that full 80 minutes, because going down to Melbourne, it's hard to win there, and you need to be playing 80 minutes of football to beat them.
Absolutely. Well, the Raiders have been close, but not close enough over the opening 2 rounds, and they now face a Cronulla side keen to build on a good win over Parramatta. The pressure is certainly building on the Raiders.
Yeah, definitely. The Raiders are a side that we'll go in patches of a couple of losses in a row, but they can string 5 or 6 wins in a row together. They're a massive momentum team, and I think they just need to learn to get that ugly win. If they get that first win, get that bit of confidence, they can go on a winning streak. But, the Sharks, they've sort of shown in the first 2 weeks that last year wasn't a fluke. Even with, some of the players they've had out, they've had up that next man up mentality, and some of the guys that have stood up, Braden Trindle and Will Kennedy, been outstanding, particularly last week in the win against the Eels. So, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, so it's going to be quite a tough task for the Raiders.
Cronulla last won in Canberra in 2018. You're the stats guru. Does that play a part in this with the record speak?
Yeah, look, 8 on the trot for the Raiders against the Sharkies, so pretty promising. And I think the Raiders will get up for this one. They have to. People sort of think it's dire straits and panic stations for the Raiders. They were 2 tight losses. The one against the Dolphins was in an absolute pouring rain for that game, very wet field. So I wouldn't look into it too much. I love what they were doing last week with Jack Whiten for the first time in a long time, if ever, sweeping both sides of the field. He scored a try on the right edge, which is less familiar with 10 minutes into that game, and I think they'll reap the rewards of that this season.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the rest of the other games for round 3. Chris is our only panellist who is backing the Eels to get the job done. Tim is solo in backing the Roosters to get it done in the rivalry game against the Rabbiters. And Chris, well, he is backing the Tigers to get the job done over the Bulldogs. Plenty of tips there for you to soak up. Thanks, team, and thank you for joining us at home. Don't forget to subscribe below and follow us on socials. We'll be back with Fox Sports Lab NRL next week.
League is life. It's exhilaration, anticipation, highs and highlights. League is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for league fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.